Canada is a country. Waves of people came to this country, were welcomed by the folks who have lived here for millennia, the First Nation. And built this society with waves of people fleeing religious persecution, fleeing tyranny, fleeing to try and build a better life for themselves here than they had back home. Whether it's folks fleeing from world wars or fleeing from civil wars, these people always want the same thing: to be able to live in peace, to raise their families, create a better future for themselves and their communities. And that is what generations created, this extraordinary diverse society we have. Now, Canada remains one of the only countries in the world where citizens are, by and large, positively inclined. And one of the reasons we are that way is because Canadians have confidence in our mission.
What up? Welcome to MK Canada, which is looking like more and more like the inside of a hockey stadium. I can tell by the color. It's a very winter, bright color schema. But also now MK Canada with like new merch that has that very like,
decent.
It's very. I feel like true to what hipsters.
Pretty epic, eh?
Fair, right? You know they have that whole. You know, I feel like this is what Samurai and the Royal Mounted Canadian Police would look like if they bred together, you know what I'm saying? So we've got a bunch of cool people here with us tonight. A kid of divorce, raised in a ranch in Western Canada, former graphic designer, former 12-year naval veteran, former corporate professional, and currently one of the most controversial people on the internet, as according to Amazon's review. A dear friend of mine, Ryan Stone. How's it going?
You fucking nerd.
I was just like, wait, what? Yeah, no, but that's fair. It's true.
Rollo beat me out. He just got in a fight with Dr. Phil, so.
Yeah, it was pretty adorable. I don't know. But, you know, you have to remember that, like, Dr. Phil, he spends time on a boat in Geneva or something. Like, he's trying to have a nice... Yeah, he's pretty into, like, yachts and family time. I think that's the whole thing about Dr. Phil. He likes to party with Ron White. That's the story I heard. I heard Ron White and him get down. Saqib, who's friends with Vincent. Vincent, what's up? Saqib, tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, so I graduated from theoretical physics at my Concordia University here in Montreal last year. And I got into private equity research as a private equity research analyst last year. So I practiced for 1 year, and now I'm transitioning to machine learning engineer.
Sweet. That's important right now. The world needs a few hands less of corruption, a little bit more robots in it. American Time Machine Kurt, how you doing tonight? What's up with you?
Great. I'm great and good. And great. Thank you.
Those are all excellent words of choice. Jordan from Divulgence Podcast, what have you been doing this week? Have you seen anything crazy going on in Canada?
Hey guys, no, not really. We got snow though. We got snow in Toronto. I think 2 days ago we got some snow, so it's beginning, folks.
Geoengineering. We're gonna have to get down to the bottom of it. You know what I'm saying? Bernie also with us.
It just is that time of year, though. Eh? The snow tends to fall and accumulate from this point forward.
So we're also combining this with the APM. This is the Advanced Philosophy Memes crossover. Crossing over with myself is, I don't know if that's okay, but I'm doing it. And so we're talking a bit about memes tonight. There's a few memes that we should probably think about. Vincent, what do you think about the G20 cancellation? And how do you feel tonight? I mean, about about the whole FTX thing. What do you think?
Well, we should talk about what that is for those who don't know.
Crypto.
Yeah, let's elaborate a bit. You know, I'll scroll some memes while you tell me more. Part, which one? The G20 summit, or which part did you want to describe?
I don't know if it was me or Jordan, but FTX, it's a big, huge exchange for crypto. I guess you could compare it to like Coinbase for a lot of people.
Scam, bankrupt, fraud.
Right. Yeah. And the whole deal with Alameda CEO's daughter of SEC head's former boss, right? So there's the whole, like, the money connection, the memes are making it all over the place, right? So kind of a laundry washing thing going on. That's an international washing of money. Thoughts on money laundering through cryptocurrencies for international espionage?
I'm a fan of that.
That meme says it all.
Dude, any of you guys played EVE Online ever?
Which game?
EVE Online.
EVE Online.
Dude, they have like an economist on board. They have like a full-on economy, and they used to have scams like this every couple years. Yeah,
what's
its nickname is Sociopaths Online.
Quite a coverage.
The amount. If you watch any finance video on YouTube, there will be like 4 different like robot spam comments, like trying to get you hooked in either a pyramid scheme or a cryptocurrency. Like there's never been a more like spammed sort of scam. It's a very spammed scam right now.
Yeah, and they had it in this. It was like the same pyramid scheme where they were using new people putting money in to pay interest on people that were already in, but it only works to a certain point, and then they at one point just abscond with everything. And that's kind of what happened, right? I didn't follow it too close, but
then in the wake of this, the G20 summit was canceled, right? And so is this, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist here, but are these two things, are the World Finance Summit of G20 and the World Finance on the other side of crypto, or FTX collapse, are these connected ideas? What do you think?
This is like the first thing that's going to start collapsing. It's like the most obvious thing that would collapse first because it's all built on the hype and hysteria, but it's evidence of just like greater hysteria, not only in financial markets but probably in the wider world. But yeah, there's a lot of other upcoming bankruptcies that are going to happen next month that don't involve crypto, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's what it sounds like when you look at the G20 not happening, is they're preparing. Right now, we've got these pairing of economies, like the crown and the dollar are paired, the euro is paired. All of these economies are hitting parity, 1-to-1.
All the Canadians and guys, you guys all got to be pretty good. If like finally we're missing a summit where a whole bunch of world leaders called Trudeau a dipshit.
Oh, it was.
Did you guys see the last one, the China?
That probably still happened off camera. Come on now.
Well, it did. He called him in Chinese. He said it. He said it in Chinese, but he didn't call him a dipshit. He called him.
He said it was
extremely naive,
unacceptable.
Unacceptably naive. That was what it was.
Naive. Yeah.
And look at he does the same thing he does in Q&A period. He just kind of stands there and nods and smiles and hopes his dimples get him through it again.
Right.
Trust fund baby. Jesus.
I mean, yeah, it's funny because, he said it was imprudent to release information like he did. That was the thing. He's like, don't you understand what we're doing here? Why are you being so transparent about it? And then he turned around and in Chinese, he's like, so incredibly naive. Something to that effect.
When China calls you out,
that is a Korean flag in the background and Japanese.
And Japan. Yeah, I mean, this is the
G20 summit, right? My bad. All of them are there.
Was this a summit? This is not the G20, right? This is something else. This is right before the G20 summit. This was
Indonesia.
My bad. That's no doubt.
Yeah, maybe it was the earlier part. But so they ended up not, because they're not doing the G20 now, and it all happened at the exact same time as crypto collapsed. So it seems like, is this because there's an esoteric? I mean, right now it's really easy for people with lots and lots of money to buy up the very last of the cryptocurrency by the extreme drop in. Price.
And it's like looking like it's from the inner workings. Like scam, bankrupt, fraud was put in by, like, he literally was meeting with Gary Gensler, like the head of the SEC. Like, it's insane. It was a designed collapse, and like you have Kevin O'Leary saying he would still invest in Sam today. Like, are you like? Are you fucking kidding me? Like a dragon? Yeah, I just lost $1 billion.
And again, Sam Bankman-Fried was the largest legal donor to the Democratic Party, the number one, but second to George Soros, right? George Soros. So George Soros.
You'll get him next time, champ.
Well, I mean, what is this? Do you think that this is as big as we're saying it is? So many people are just regurgitating that this is a planned thing, or is it just that they allowed this person to rise in power? How natural is this? How organic is this?
I'd say it's organic. How many times have you had some guy do a bunch of, like the Black Lives Matter was same thing. Donate a bunch of money to the Democrats for the assurances you're not going to get sued. Take a bunch of money, buy yourself some houses in Alabama or whatever those BLM ones were. It's like scavenging the corpse at this point. How many groups haven't done it?
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of like glam metal bands. And hear me out, because like these bands that had, remember at one point after they were super famous and had hot tubs in their limousines, that Dee Snider ended up as a telemarketer, right? Because they have to do these tours. They're going to do the job, and then they get to eat the green M&Ms. But most of the money is going to everybody else along the way that built the band, that built the tour stadium, insurance, the vehicle, security, right? So, I mean, I feel like that's kind of what's going on with a lot of these pet projects, like any of these, free. Take another pick, but I guess BLM
they're basically an ecosystem. Well, that's like Andrew Tate's thing, where he had his MLM scheme going. He was pulling in like $9,000 a month or $9 million a month, paying out $4.5 million in affiliate links. All those people. That's how he got so big, right? Everybody was tweeting out a lot of his stuff. And then
elaborate more on this, because not everybody knows all this for some reason.
Oh, that's right, dude. It's like I always have this thing where like men are raised as defective women, and this is perfect because this was like the same grift that like Mary Kay and like Amway was doing. And he just decided to put like an alpha male veneer on it. It was damned brilliant. So he would teach people how to email market. You know, here's how you can sell affiliate stuff from Gumroad or whatever.
Right. And he had personalized fake emails that were like the Trump emails that looked like they were personal.
Right. And then part of like their initial thing is he would give them a bunch of clips, him saying, alpha male shit. And so they would retweet it out and make Twitter accounts. And then that's how he gamed the algorithm to become like the biggest name on Google trending. That's why he lost all of his monetization. And then once that happened, they cut his Stripe and all that stuff. And so all of his people that wanted him to succeed, if they were Democrats, they'd have still kept him in there. But because they were just, manosphere grifters, they were left holding the bag. 4.5 million of affiliates are gone overnight. This guy keeps the last 9 million, and then that's it. Now he can't come into the U.S. It's everybody's running this grift lately. It's almost like
come to the U.S. right now.
Oh yeah, well, he's got a couple like beaten women allegations and stuff too. It's a long story. It's not very Canadian, so I won't bore you with it. But it's the same grift that you're seeing with FTX.
We're hyper APM right now, so we're going world. You know what I mean? You've got your perspective. That's Canadian enough. This is hypnotic. I love that. Sorry. Anyway, deadly missile strike adds to Ukraine wars fears in Poland. People have been talking about this. It's pretty well assured now that this was a Ukrainian missile, not a Russian missile. Everybody knows that now. Been trying to wait until it's too late to talk about it so that we're all convinced that we have all the proof and everything. But, what should we do in this situation? It's so amazing how quickly it was kind of reminded me. My dad was in Yugoslavia in the 70s, and he told me at one point they were allies with some country, and then that week they ended up not being. So he was in a theater. As he walked into the theater, all the walls were covered in flyers for alliance, and then he walked out because something had changed while he was in the theater. Someone had come and had been paid to take down all the flyers. The entire place had been covered wall to wall. Now they had all taken down. So it just feels like that. The media saying we've always been at war with Oceania, is that what's...
Somebody give a hot take. I don't want to rant for the whole hour.
Well, bro, I mean, it's too... you're only here for an hour, so yeah, hot take it up,
Of course it is.
So this was actually Russia. We just we're trying to keep everything together, so we had to fabricate that it's from Ukraine. Ukraine's like, okay.
Send in the goon,
Yeah. And it was the first real act of aggression, and we don't want people to know it. So kind of a hot take, but I don't know. I think there are some interesting talking points about how much gets hidden from the general public for the sake of peace, or how much, the hierarchy is really, in control or not,
Good question for you, though. Does this mean NATO won't fight or can't fight?
NATO won't fight.
But they could?
It's very expensive. It's very expensive, and they won't take a step with just speculative anything that is speculative, because it's very
expensive. I've heard rumors that their ability for force protection is really low lately, and I'm just curious if they've heard anything on that.
I mean, this missile killed 2 men Tuesday in a Polish village close to the Ukrainian border. So it was not just like an empty shell or something to that effect. I mean, this is a pretty serious thing, and we're going to see more and more of these proxy drones from. I mean, this is as drone prices are de-escalating. Also, you're going to start seeing more and more of these $500 autonomous kamikaze drones, and that's something that's been a big thing, right? Kamikaze drones.
Actually, a lot of the drones have been brought to you by Turkey in Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
It has been supplying a lot of drones to Ukraine.
Yeah, so I mean, it seems like it's a war by proxy. A lot of people are investing in this kind of. I think this happened in World War II, right at the beginning of World War II, when the Americans couldn't help the British, so the British were going to conquer Finland, and they forced Finland to ask America to help them out as peacetime friends. So there's a lot of that going on in Pakistan and in Turkey. What is every country gearing up for? I mean, this is kind of like this World War III or reset or whatever. What do you think the actual conflict is?
Loaded question.
always loaded questions. Take all the hot takes you need.
Just make something up. None of us will know the difference.
Right.
I've heard actually, you know what it is? I've heard the rumor that it's because we've already hit the low-hanging fruit. I can't remember who coined the thing, but the idea was all of the efficiencies we could have gleaned out of the economy from technology are kind of there, and we're plateauing. So the age of growth is over. And now that we're at an age where wealth truly is zero sum, that everybody's trying to like scramble and scavenge as much as they can. So a lot of this stuff is really just taking a larger share of a slowly no longer growing pie. I have no idea how true it is, but it would make sense.
Adding to that is like you have Russia joining this alliance called the BRICS Alliance. Have you heard of it? BRICS.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically Saudi Arabia now making very good ties with Russia, China, Brazil. Yeah, it's like a big thing happening. So
back to a multipolar world
pre-World War I. If this goes through, Saudi Arabia will be the largest oil producing country joining with Russia. So there's a big power shift happening on that scale.
I mean, also interesting. I've been looking into Egypt and what Egypt's doing with the conflict. Obviously, here's the hot take: the people aren't super down, but the president is super militarized, and Egypt's super militarized. And did you guys see the new NAC, administrative capital of Egypt?
So yeah. They're moving the capital of Egypt. Yes.
Yeah. Here's the new octagon to replace the Pentagon. Right. It's going to be this crazy. It's all out in the middle of the desert, far away, but it's basically the new Amarna, right? Like that's what Akhenaten did when he moved the capital originally. So they're doing the same thing, and this is going to have the tallest tower in the world, the Obelisco, which is going to be a kilometer tall tower. Let me see if I can find. If I type Obelisco, come on.
Why do you think like countries race for having the tallest building?
Small penises, or maybe magic. I mean, magic seems like a good one. And then also radio, because you could have the highest signal. And I remember being in LA, just the feeling of being above people, so you're not like dreaming at the same level as them, because maybe your headspace, maybe being above the radio.
There was a really nice experiment that was done. Donation boxes were placed at the ground floor, and at the top floor, and people found out that the top floor donation boxes had the most donations. And it said it gave a very interesting reflection on how our minds work with metaphors, because like up is more compassionate, up has more the higher you go, there is more metaphors related to compassion, mercy, and whatnot. And that
dominance.
Dominance also up on the dominance hierarchy. And you go with the same thing as like people who are rich are more philanthropic than people who are poor.
I mean, the other thing is poor people are in that Maslow hierarchy of need.
Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
Well, just thinking, you think about self-actualization. So the concept of self-actualization is still built on the idea of having all your needs met. So if you can keep people from having their needs met, or only have their needs met through a system that's in place to keep them from meeting those needs themselves, then it keeps them from reaching self-actualization, right? And so that keeps, I think there's a big thing here with, we can avoid people having people and have people just die themselves without a war necessarily, which is why you're seeing all the drones, because the drones are to replace people, right? And so very quickly, it's that Soylent Green movie. But you have, and this, I guess we're getting into the made in Canada part, which is euthanasia, right? People are choosing that it's not a quality of life willing to live all over the world. And, there are places like Canada where this has become exemplified, right?
Dude, that's such an AstroTurf thing. They're having hearings on that right now, And every time you see a Canadian doctor, they start off their speech with like, I am unequivocally against this. It's going to encourage people to do it. I don't think a 2-year-old's going to be suicidally depressed. But it's like every time you bring in like a Norwegian or an Indian doctor, or one of the doctors that come from like abroad, as soon as they come here, they're like, yeah, well, technically, if the parents don't want you to nuke their kid and the kid wants it, then we're just going to do what the kid wants. And you're just like, dude, these ghouls. It's like a weird medical invasion, like Braveheart, only weird and dystopic.
I mean, so you had said this earlier, but bring it up again for those who don't know this around the world, that what's going on in Canada. So they have rules about mature infants. What's a mature infant?
Oh no, mature minors. That's
mature minor.
Do you remember when pedos were talking about they don't want to call themselves that because of the stigma attached with diddling kids, so they call themselves minor attracted persons? Is that weird George Carlin wordplay to try and make something sound not so bad? So yeah. Mature minor.
How old is a mature minor?
1 to 12 years old.
Wow.
So mature minor.
Ridiculous.
So 1 to 12 years old it's made in Canada is acceptable. You can do made for 1 to 12.
They're trying to argue it. I don't know if it's gonna. I hope it doesn't go through, because I'm willing to poke fun at just about anything, but this ghoulish shit, it kind of really starts to freak me out.
Yeah, I mean, it's right there at the edge, man. I mean,
yeah, and it started off. I get it. It did. I hate to say this, but like all the crazy dudes that were like, dude, this is gonna be a slippery slope, and we're like, whatever. It's for people who have like 89 years old, stage 4 terminal cancer, so they don't have to suffer with indignity, right? So like everybody was behind that. That's fine. And then it started to go back. Well, it's like, no, maybe if they're a little depressed. And then there was a soldier, Canadian Forces guy, and this is where I started to find out about it. He went to the VAC and he's like, hey, I got PTSD from that Afghanistan thing you sent me to. I was promised to get some treatment for it. I'm here for that. And the doctor was like, well, have you tried killing yourself? And he's like, uh-huh.
Yeah, because killing yourself, like killing or like death is much cheaper than providing long-term care.
It's not. There was the Senate asked for a study on this, and I could pull it up. I'll have to find it here, but they did a study to find the cost-benefit analysis of like euthanizing versus treatment.
Exactly.
And the program over the course that had been done so far was a 0.08% savings. So it's literally not about the costs. 0.08% of the healthcare budget.
Benefit analysis of euthanasia versus long-term care. Look for long-term
they were
care.
saying this. Well, there's a report that the Senate asked that's based on this. This is just a slideshow. But yeah, they broke it down 0.08%, and then they broke it down by province, where it showed BC had the highest. it was like 4.8% of deaths are because of the MAID program. Which was funny because somebody pointed it up, like 4.8% of deaths in BC are because of this. And they're like, technically it's 4.8% of just the people who are going to die to this. And they're like, 100% of people will die. So like the stat's the same. But it's also because BC has that giant drug problem. And if I really, and I don't want to give them credit on this, man, I really don't. Like if I'm trying to think of what's the best thing they could do, you know, that giant homeless drug problem in Vancouver, maybe some insane Halliburton level, you know, I'm going to shoot my friend with a shotgun, George Bush level guy is like, I have a solution to the homeless problem and the fentanyl problem.
Yeah.
And they're trying to push it through this way, which I would have believed until they started talking about the 12-year-olds.
Wow.
But that's some sad stuff, dude. I'm telling you guys, we got to stop looking into it. You're going to be depressed. Go look up maple syrup heist. Let's talk about that.
I am pretty excited with the maple syrup heist. We could do that, but I do want to. I mean, I'm not ready. I mean, so minor depression is really intense, bro. You're right, and I kind of have to meditate on that for a while. I think people in the world outside of Canada need to think about it because it's kind of like Back to the Future. Like this is the chance where you're Marty McFly, and you can be like, I've seen this one before it happens in other countries, right? I mean, this is happening in Canada, then next in California, and that's usually how that goes, right? I mean, it's already in Northern Europe. Minor depression, is there such a thing? If you've been feeling depression, it's lasted more than a few weeks, you could have and that's not what I mean. Minor, I want infant depression. I mean, what are they? Baby depression symptoms.
Wow.
Can babies be depressed?
This thing existed until today.
Can babies be depressed? Look at this crying. You know, what do you do? What do you do? They won't stop crying. Oh my God.
Got to take them to the chambers.
Infants don't have a life history to weigh them down or make them sad. But that doesn't mean they can't experience depression. Many mental health professionals believe, based on case studies and clinical experience, that babies can and do become depressed.
If they write based on case studies, why don't they hyperlink the case studies?
Good question.
Where are the case studies?
Question.
Yeah, where do I go? I'm going to go to the bottom of this page really quickly here. Recap, parental. Oh, yeah, I don't see it anywhere. Intervention programs, medical therapy, psychotherapist, music therapy.
That's when they said.
To be fair, maid's not on here yet as an option or treatment, so that's nice that they haven't gotten to that.
Well, like, do we think depression is a complex emotion, and do we think infants are capable of complex emotions? It's like, we might be just cheapening the definition. Like the baby's like, oh, I want to kill myself. You know, I don't think.
But that's important. That's a relevant point. So like we don't let babies do that because eventually you're supposed to as a grown up learn to not.
I don't know, help them develop their brain fully before you start diagnosing them. Dude, you know what the crazy part is too? The APA, like most Canadian organizations, rubber stamp American organization studies. Like CSIS does that when the FBI or NSA comes across the wire. RCMP does that a lot for federal FBI stuff. The APA, generally you get a rubber stamp for the Canadian stuff. They're the ones defining this thing. So you have like an extra national organization defining the series of conditions you need to be considered like euthanized. Imagine that. Hey, some guy in America gets to say if your kid gets to be euthanized, and if your kid disagrees with you, they're doing it. That's like such an offshoring of like sovereignty that I've ever seen.
Wait, Jordan, what were you saying? I didn't see that. You said that you were about to say something?
No, that was a while back, man. Don't worry about it.
What?
I had my book out, and don't worry. It was a while back.
What? No. What the book? What's this book? Come on.
No,
now I'm spotlighting you.
Dude, don't spotlight me. I put it away. Like it's. Dude. I put my hand up a bunch of times and I just put it away.
I'm sorry. Next time, just tell me because I couldn't see your hand. It was like too small of a screen on my side. I mean, okay. Mental illness and assisted death, a frontline doctor's fears. The mental illness and assisted death brings significant update. You've seen so many of these doctors saying that they're against this too. Who's pushing it then? If the doctors and the patients aren't for it, who's all about this?
International NGOs and stuff, man. The one doctor was the one who started the thing in Norway or whatever his name. I can't remember his name. I'd have to go pull it up. It's in my tweets, but yeah, they're the people that are coming here to argue for this. International organizations. And Canada's got a weird history with that too. Like even our gun ban. Do you know for our gun ban we just had, the International Olympic Committee gets to decide what sports use which guns, and that's the only legal handguns we're allowed in the country for those specific sports. So an international organization is defining Canadian law. And there's like tons of examples of this. When Trudeau said we're not a nation, he didn't say that as like as a statement. He was saying it as a prophecy. He was making it happen. It was a policy statement.
Wait, Trudeau said we were tyrants? Really? I didn't even hear that one.
Canada's not a nation. And then he made every effort to make sure that was true.
What he said? He said Canada's not a nation. What do you say they were instead?
I don't even think he got that far. He was busy just telling, hey, he was saying like immigrants are the true Canadians, the real Canadians are fakers because they were just born here. They didn't have to earn it. He was talking like Bane off of Batman. You guys were born in the maple syrup. We had to, whatever. And you're like,
oh, they're coming.
Yeah. See, no, it's the worst thing. Like, you think of all the Alex Jones stuff ever, and he's like quoted saying it with a big smirk on his face and the stupidest haircut. It looks like Frankenstein. Trust fund Frankenstein there. What the hell?
But America's a nation because America has MTV. So I mean, doesn't CBC make Canada a nation? You know what I mean? What makes Canada not a nation? I mean,
bro.
Canada has
You're the only one.
Yeah, but Canada makes all the other shows too, like sci-fi shows filmed in Canada. I don't even know where to start with this, but like every show you've ever seen that pretends that it's in the United States, every single show shot. Oh my God, what's the other one? I mean, Psych. Psych is hilarious. They shoot it in like North British Columbia. No, not that.
Yeah,
Psych
but weren't you guys getting
TV.
a lot of stuff from Iraq after you bombed the shit out of them and started exporting it to the States?
I don't remember watching that much Iraqi TV, but maybe it was there.
Not TV, but they were giving you like oil and stuff. All you had to do was glass the population and pull Buddy out of the cave.
Yeah, but this is.
Where'd he go?
No.
This is more because this is more like Travolta's Rest of the World.
You sketched out a second there.
Yeah.
Where did what go? What happened?
Everything before Travolta we couldn't hear.
Just about 2 seconds.
Yes.
And now another 2 seconds.
Oh, Canada's making all the media for the rest of the world. This one, or
interesting,
or the other one, the blonde one, or the
because of his tabs.
I met Travolta.
Which one did you meet, Jordan?
I met Travolta.
Oh, you met Travolta? When did you meet Travolta?
A couple years ago, when he put out that movie that Fred Durst produced, The Fan or whatever it's called. He was promoting that, so I got to see a sneak preview of that with him, and I met him the next day. Like one-on-one kind of thing. Yeah, there it is.
What?
Yeah. The Fanatic.
That's
awesome. Yeah.
What was he like?
I gotta watch this. I haven't seen it.
Because he's so big time, he's got he's like when I met William Shatner, it's like, okay, you get 2 seconds and like you're gone kind of thing. So I mean, he's got a nice smile and everything, but like you don't really get a chance to get
annoying.
social or anything. So I got a photo and an autograph, and it was pretty quick. So
should have got him to dance.
But I mean, this is the movie 1989, The Experts, where he and his friend are at a nightclub and they get kidnapped from New York, and then they're brought to like what they think is the Midwest, Nebraska, but it's actually the Soviet Union, and they updated to the 80s because the 50s CIA town is too outdated, right? The KGB need like a modernized version. So he doesn't know that he's in this place that's not really America. He thinks it's just out of date because it's the Midwest, and he has to fix it. That is what Canada feels like in so many ways. And also the fact that the movie's actually shot in Toronto doesn't, you know what I mean? Like they went to not New York to film the scene. So there's this nation, but the nation's made up of all these fictional stories like Washington Irving or MTV, or now, I mean, Nelvana, and there's a lot of other Canadian things that I can think of as well, but we've created this fake culture. So isn't that a nation, or what would make America a nation and Canada not a nation, or what do you think?
Well, your asshole president doesn't call your country not a nation. That's really the only difference.
Huh.
Did Biden say we were a nation?
You guys, like America, you guys did the revolution, so you kind of like officially declared yourself a nation because you kicked everybody else out. We waited till the Second World War and then just said, "Hey, do you mind if we go do our own thing?" And Britain's like, "Yeah, sure." It's really the only difference. Maybe we don't have like every Canadian's always.
It's an interesting point.
that we're not Canadian.
So we declared that we're.
Yeah. You just did it officially. We just kind of like went with it.
So we declared that we were. We declared we were like a Masonic nation, which is kind of like saying a nation of Islam. You know, we created a Masonic nation that believed in an ideology about a fraternity as opposed to, merit as opposed to nepotism, right? As the main focus for what brings us together. But we also said we were a state, and the state was separate from the crown. That's the thing. To be separate as a state is one thing. To be a nation's another, and we did both. But Canada just said we're going to continue to be Canadian. We're not going to create when does Canada become a nation? What does it take for Canada to decide it's more than a state?
After the Brits to declare war on Germany, that was the big thing. Because otherwise, in World War I, as soon as Britain declared war, we were automatically at war.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I might be getting my history wrong, so guys, correct me. I know there's some smarter guys than me in here. I'm not that smart. But from what I remember, that was how it worked. We stopped becoming the Dominion.
What's that?
Vince
Wasn't that because World War I, when Britain declared
muted.
war, yeah, we automatically were at war.
I can't
World War
hear you.
II, we waited a week to do it to show that we had our own sovereignty. That was like our demarcation point, was it not?
Okay. During the World War I period, you mean?
No, World War II. World War I, when the Brits went to war, we were automatically out.
Yeah,
we were still the Dominion of Canada.
Yeah, we came in as our own body, so to speak, in World War II. Yeah. We took more of a formation on our own, absolutely. Absolutely.
No, can't hear you, Vince.
That's all I got for the history lesson. That's as far as I made it in high school.
I think Vince is. I don't know, Vince, if you're talking, you're muted. I think
his headphone.
I think Sakib was saying that.
Is your headphone is working, or is it what's happening? Maybe you can disconnect your headphone and just talk with the mic.
Oh, if you have double setting, check your settings on your.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes in the double settings, it's messed up. No audio.
Hello, can you? There, this one's
back. Whoa, that was brutal. I got lost. I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. Move that.
What happened in California?
There you go.
What was the question?
What happened in California? You guys losing power again?
Oh my God! Earlier today, I was talking to Ben Gertzel, and the power went out on him in California. Luckily, I'm in Minnesota, so it should be okay. But I think it's just whenever we talk about really interesting things. So this is important.
Is a very interesting guy.
Hello?
Yeah. I'll release that episode over the weekend.
Both the brothers are really interesting.
Yeah, right. Zarathustra is really cool.
Yeah, Zarathustra is really amazing.
I've been friends with him for a while. So Remembrance Day is Poppy Day, is this celebration of the British recruiting, drafting, and having how many millions of South Africans, Australians, Canadians murdered, ethnically cleansed in a sense, if you think about it, because just millions of people died. What's the movie that Peter Jackson, World War I movie? They will not be forgotten or something like that. They will be. They shall not grow old. Have you guys seen that movie yet?
Oh,
I have not.
So this is a 1918 footage based film that it's kind of, what he did with the Beatles, but nobody cared because it was just about the most important people in history, World War I, right? Instead, he had to do it about the Beatles. Then people cared, but he cleaned up the footage, and it's amazing because you're looking at footage that's was horrible, and using all this cleanup, it's insane. And you can see, though, these guys are drafted from Canada and South Africa and, Australia and New Zealand. And then their lives are turned upside down. And then they don't, the few of them that make it home, when they get home, the signs say no soldiers need apply because they're just like, those guys are weird.
Yeah.
So the life was just really hard, and they were just never able to adapt after what happened to them, And that's true of a lot of the people that we think about. And that's one of the things that should be remembered on Remembrance Day. But it's also important to remember, I don't know how fair it is to say these people chose to. But then again, when they were there, they believed in what they did, obviously. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, there was some pressure. There was the white.
There's a lot of pressures
White feather, what?
The white feather campaigns. It was like one of the original feminist pushes, is that they were pushing for guys to go to war, and any guy they saw who was of military age, still on the home front, these girls would put like these. You remember like the adultery letter they used to put on the chicks?
Oh.
It was like a white feather they'd put on guys, calling them cowards. And girls basically shamed dudes to head into the front lines, the ones that weren't conscripted already.
Dang. So basically wear a white feather if you don't want to go to war or something.
Well,
like that's a new
wearing
symbol.
the white feather was seen as like a embarrassing thing. Like all the girls called you a coward. Yeah.
There's just levels of levels of metaphor there with Forrest Gump. I'm pretty sure. What does the white feather mean? Because he does go to war. You know, I'm pretty sure they had to have thought of that. So I mean, yeah, there was all these things to freak people out. We've talked about If Day before, in Canada. If Day is the one where they pretended that the British were invaded, that Canada was invaded by the Nazis. So they ended up dressing up as Nazis, and then they, crossed out the Winnipeg Tribune and wrote the Der Winnipegger Lugenblatt, right? And they took over, and it's like, this is what will happen. You know, occupation Reichmarks. You have to use Reichmark bonds for the day. You know, and the idea was to get people to invest in war bonds to save Canada, but it's an entire mock invasion that they staged, right?
Nice test.
It sounds like a crime.
Dude, imagine they pull out those posts next year when they're trying to run for office. That'll be embarrassing.
Like imagine we just kidnap a town for a day. We're like, oh, that's cool, that's legal, you know.
Yeah, I mean, they rode into town with tanks,
Nazi style, no less.
Yeah. This is Canada in 1942. I mean, wow. But it would have made you probably want to join, right?
At the time.
I love it. Honestly, I think it's great.
It got people. Look at they hoisted up the German flag at the time to replace the local flag. I mean,
so this was a simulation. Nothing happened, or did it happen?
Well, this is a simulation, and I'm happily willing to discuss conspiracies that maybe the Germans really did invade in World War II in Canada, but I'm pretty sure it was just the British putting on a show. But then again, was not most of World War II, so. I don't know.
Well, remember those photos of the U-boats, the German U-boats that were taking pictures of like New York Harbor and stuff? So they were here.
Yeah.
Like within eye shot.
Yeah, but there was also people in Philadelphia that spoke German. You know, there's a lot of people that were friends with the Germans before the war as well. And, probably working corporations back and forth. IBM was clearly involved in Germany, and there's a lot of East Coast companies.
They didn't go to the internment camps, just the Japanese side.
Say it again? Which part? The because you can't tell if someone's German necessarily as easily is what they told us in schools anyway. I don't know.
You can tell.
That's what they told you.
Right, you can tell that someone's German maybe, but you might think they were Polish, and you might be like, well, what is Germany? Because they speak German, but they might have been in a Russian area. Right?
All I could think of was like them having an argument, like how we argue, like, what's a woman? Nowadays, what is a German person really?
Right. I mean, and then they have the Amish, and the Amish were a protected group, right? So it was just the convoluted.
There's gonna be some poor Korean bastard who's like, "Why am I here? We hate Japan."
Yeah, I mean, so what really sucked for the Japanese was that so in California, all the Japanese were taken from where I'm from, basically, and then they were brought to Alabama, and when they got there. And they woke up, and I heard this from firsthand accounts from a lady who I used to go to school, who was working at the school. There were kids who couldn't speak Japanese as well as herself, right? And then there were kids there that could only speak Japanese. Hey, what up? Kevin made it. We're talking about internment camps for the Japanese.
My man.
So the internment camps of the Japanese, they get there, they can't speak Japanese. All the signs are in Japanese. And then they're speaking English, and they ask somebody else, and that person starts speaking Portuguese. And then somebody else starts speaking Spanish. And they're like, wait, what's going on? So they went and they found out the OSS had kidnapped tons of Japanese Americans who weren't from the United States. Just West Coasters from Chile, Peru, and even in Brazil, they took some Japanese. And then they, in the middle of the night, brought them to these internment camps. And so they were stuck there the whole war, couldn't do anything. Afterwards, in the 70s, I think they finally did an apology. But the apology only goes to Japanese Americans from the United States. So they didn't get the money. They didn't get, which was nominal. It was like $75,000. It wasn't a lot. But they didn't get the apology, which I think is even ironically more important.
They were called the Nisei, right? Nisei. Nisei, Nisei. They were the first generation American Japanese. Nesei.
Oh, Nesei.
Nisei. Nisei. Yeah. Nisei. Nesei. Or is it?
Nesei?
Nisei, sorry. Nisei. Nisei.
Oh, the Nisei. Okay.
Yeah, the Nisei.
Japanese language term used countries in North America. Right. Well, what's interesting is they're just for 6-7 centuries, probably Japanese along the coast of California. And so the Irish came and they forbid them from owning property and started to move them out. In California, we have a China Beach Aptos, which was, shockingly not China. It was Japanese. Let me see if I can historic point. Basically, the Japanese lived on this beach. I don't know if I can find pictures of what's left of it, but it was called Chinaman Beach. And then they were all forced out. And then recently in California, let's see, China Beach, Santa Cruz. Will that work? Yeah, they put roller coasters and things there now. The boardwalk was there since the 1890s. So, but they pushed them out that was 100 years earlier, and they've been constantly trying to de-escalate the Japanese population in California. Meanwhile, you go to a place like Peru, an even better example. You know the word ceviche, right? Ceviche. Compare that with sushime, and you start to see like the idea of raw fish and ceviche, sushime connected, going back on the east, on the west coast. The Japanese were highly important in South America. Still, I mean, you look at Fujimori, Peru. The president of Peru was a Yakuza connected guy, Fujimori. So,
and there's like a lot of Japanese Peruvian fusion restaurants we always see here in Montreal. Like every high-end Montreal Peruvian restaurant has like a Japanese fusion to it.
Yeah, I mean, so the Japanese are they were a lot more powerful in California before the internment camps, and the internment camps were mainly to displace they had companies, corporations, they were building, ceramics, making textiles, melting down metals
that were owned by them too.
Right. So funny enough, my family were Croatian farmers in what's Silicon Valley today. So there were lots of Japanese around us and some Italians, and then the Japanese went to my great-grandfather in the area and asked if he would just if he could help them. He's like, all right, well, let me just watch it for you, like the old-fashioned way. I don't need any money. Let me just tend the fruit and I'll sell the fruit while you're gone. And when you get back, you can have it land back. Normally people get ripped off. My great-grandfather actually gave them back their property when they got back. So a lot of people got screwed out of it, but we have a bunch of cool ceramic Japanese plates from 100 years ago that were given to us as a gift because we didn't screw them. So, I mean, yeah, but a lot of people did lose all that stuff, but you can still find street names that are Japanese in California. I'm trying to remember Santa Monica. I'll just look at the map really quickly because I can't even remember the name of it, but there's tons of names that are Japanese. If I go down here, what's the name of that thing right here? This thing.
Wait, is that the Santa Monica Pier?
Yeah. I can't remember the name of it, but the road right here is a Japanese name. And there's
where you are, Kevin?
I'm not far from there. I'm a little ways out, but
you sound super sketched out. You're like, why are you guys fucking coning in on me?
There's Kevin right there in a van.
There he is. Move in. Swarm.
Yeah, I don't know if that's not what I meant. No.
Zerds,
but yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, but every time I see somebody who has a browser window open with all these tabs, I think back to remember Kurt Eichenwald when he was doing this with anti-Trump stuff, and they found that hentai tentacle porn on his thing, and then he tried to get out of it by saying, "No, I was just teaching my kids what hentai tentacle porn was, so they didn't look for it."
Right.
It
yeah.
sounded even worse.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna get in trouble. I know eventually that's how they're gonna get me. They're gonna be like, we found a bunch of pictures. I'm like, wait a second, where were they? Were they in the Joe Biden zip file? And they'll be like, well, maybe. Like, that's the only that's how it's going to go. Global readers have a lot of feelings about MAID. I don't know. So we talked a bit about MAID. We talked about the assisted diet. Let's talk a bit about living, right? So here's the thing. Quality of life, they're saying, is so bad that it's worth dying. What makes quality of life worth living? What do you have to do to have a life that's worth living?
Oh, they just dropped that. I think you need 125,000 US or something for quality of life.
What? That's ridiculous.
I think they just dropped that. Yeah, they
if
just
you want
did
to look
something.
at quality of life worth living, look at what Kerala is a very good model. Kerala, Kerala. Kerala, it's I think Kerala, the Indian. It's the quality of life in Kerala. They have actually one some of the most educated people bunched up here, earning less than $1. Fisherman province, fisheries province, but highest quality of life also.
So what makes it the highest quality? I mean, they have access to nature and they're happy.
Mostly they're very, to be honest, like I think their culture is based on gratitude. A lot of
That's a good start. That's a good start. Fuck.
I mean, they're happy with what they have, so.
I think one thing that's important to think about when it comes to MAID laws is when we think of quality of life, I think we're always we do it both by self-report, but we're doing it with people we've probably never given a structure of society to build them in the mindset of being worthy, to like turn the wheel of the Dharma, because that's how I think we've kind of broken up society into not thinking in spiritual terms. So like if you approach things from a spiritual perspective, you can always give people a reason to live because you know what it means to actually meditate and deal and integrate the feeling of death rather than running for it. And we have a culture where we run from death. We don't integrate that feeling and we don't integrate that sense. So it's possible that there is corruption behind even thinking of these laws and even thinking that they might be necessary because we've estranged such a high portion of society in general. Yeah.
Also, you can look at Qatar, which is the exact opposite of Kerala, but still very, very, very high quality of living, very rich.
Yeah, for as long as you're not a slave who's had your passport held for 9 years, But they do have
Qatar doesn't do it. The UAE does it. Qatar doesn't has this law.
Where's that? I hear a lot of. Oh, I'm gonna mute you, Kurt. Nope, that's not you. Where's this? I hear so much noise. Oh, Vince, I'm sorry, Vince, it's you. Your fan is just killing me.
Actually, that's my computer.
Sorry, bro.
Oh, Vince, you're back.
Good. Hey, at least it works.
That was pretty intense. Yeah, I mean, Qatar's amazing, and they're building islands and they have an amazing soccer stadium. I think that's the thing. Football brings us all reset. Everything starts with football. As soon as they build a new football stadium, billion, I'm just type the word billion next to football stadium, and you'll see these crazy. Look at this freaking temple here. It almost looks like the Jesuit symbol in the soccer thing going on there in this pyramid of light, red light, and these glass roofs. This is what they want to do for Notre Dame. They're like, don't worry, we know exactly how to do it. We should just tear out the pews, astroturf it, and it'll be amazing, right?
Jesus, man, you need the bread and circus.
Didn't that catch fire a little while back too?
Notre Dame, yeah. My buddy was there actually when that happened, and he filmed the whole thing. It was super sad. Notre Dame fire. Let me see if I can get some pictures there. So the story goes, somebody working there, probably not a Catholic, but I can't be sure, left a cigarette, and the cigarette burned through some old wood, and then caught major fire. That's the official story. I don't know. I mean, this was also on some weird pagan holiday, and now that it's
Napoleon survives 30 years war, some asshole with a cigarette. Oh, sorry about that, bud.
I've been there like 3 or 4 times, and the last time I was there was about 3 months before the fire. So I was like, just made it, got a bunch of good photos and everything like that. But what's funny is, you get into the Tartaria stuff, and we were researching it so much. That was the other reason I was going there, to look into Antiquitech. And you've got the Notre Dame windows, and the windows have these cymatic patterns, right? So if you were to play the right frequency with some sand on a subwoofer, you would figure out what frequency this window is supposed to hear, and that's the sound that you're supposed to be playing with these pipe organs. And there's a huge push of people that have been thinking about this for a long time. Royal Rife comes to mind. He's a guy who built sound healing machines back in the 50s, you know. But we're using sonication today based on that same technology. And lo and behold, the sound frequencies that we're using to remove calcium deposits in your urethra, right, or to destroy like tumors, are the same frequencies that you get when you make these windows.
Wait, hey, Andreas, look up DNA cross section photos.
So literally, the church was actually healing people.
Look up DNA cross section photos.
Right, back then the church was a racket. You pay some money in, and you can. There we go. Wow, cross section photos.
Look at the second photo. I mean, that looks like
fair point.
Church window.
There you go. So people are on this wave right now, and the interesting idea then is, can you turn these buildings back into healing facilities?
Healing technology.
Right. And so the church organ, have you ever seen how big a freaking church organ is, you know?
Yeah, they look incredible, man. Yeah, those proper ones.
Acoustic.
Man, sometimes I wonder if the churches were built on sound alone, because the architecture seems too crazy for humans to build. It seems like if you get the right sound, the bricks just start forming.
Yeah, well, it looks a little like DMT sometimes.
Yeah.
That's literally the story of Solomon, right? Solomon built the temple with it had to be sat in a silent valley so that he could use sound to build it. Sorry, Jordan, what do you say?
No, I just right here, the magnificent opus healing pipe organs.
Yeah, there you go.
Man,
there's some pretty wild ones there.
Yeah, it's amazing. And so many of these pipe organs now.
And, I got photos of. Sorry, keep going. But I got photos of like. Here we go.
Right.
And then the cross sections that you mentioned, kind of like.
It does. The temple feels like a DMT trip. The architecture.
Yeah.
Well, there's
the right temple, man. The temples they built in the last like 20 years just look like fucking. Was built by Croatian drywallers.
I resemble that remark.
So do I, man.
Wait, you're a Croat? Wait, did we already do this? Did we do this already?
No, I don't think so. Are you
too? What?
Man. No way.
That's blowing my mind.
Hey, how about the...
I remember in Brain Candy, at the end of Brain Candy, the kids in the hall, they have like the taxi driver the entire time. He's like, the time they came to the country and they started to make these pills. Well, they have an old Croatian saying that says, you know, like I forget what it even is, but like you find out he's a Croatian.
Yeah. Wait, before we go here, check out the link I shared for mosques as opposed to the churches. You know.
Sweet. Oh, I was actually looking at mosque designs.
Some of them are like straight up full on psychedelic. Like there's no way around it. These people were.
Yeah, the mosques are really.
Yeah, it actually goes with something called Penrose styling. If you go quasi crystals, if you look at quasi crystals, and basically quasi crystals have exactly this.
That's awesome. I still have time crystal open, quasi crystal. That's the thing. Also, the idea that you can record in a crystal becomes important because you can define with sonication which direction.
The third image, and quasi crystals with Islamic mosque mosaics. You'll see like they discovered this way back.
Dude, have you ever seen Kufik? Do you know what Kufik is?
Yeah, Kufik, yeah.
So, like, check this out for all non-Muslims. This is literally Arabic in the oldest, as far as we know, writing system, which is.
And they found this in like Viking ships as well. Kufik,
right? You should, you got to see my Ewing talk I'm doing tomorrow. Actually, we're gonna go into this. This symbol here actually says Muhammad and Allah 4 times, right?
Oh, by the way, look at the greatest man ever lived. Just Google.
Oh yeah. Wait. Is that documentary?
Just the greatest man who ever lived.
Better not be that other weird. Okay, cool. As long as it's all right, cool. Because there's another one like the greatest story never told. I was really scared you were going
Greatest
there.
man
I was like, bro,
lived.
break my heart.
Just look at the all section, not the images, because there is no image of him.
Don't get me Kanye.
Had no image.
Oh yeah. Well, you got to watch Kubrick's movie The Prophet, which he pretended not to make, but The Prophet movie is made by Hal Craig. Yeah, so it's Hal Craig. Like whatever. The Message.
Oh yeah.
The Message. It's a weird movie because it's the whole time. It's like Muhammad's just in the other room. Okay. You know what I mean? He's just offset the whole movie. It's like 2 hours of him just being offset. But it was made. Yeah, with Anthony Quinn, and it's definitely secretly a Kubrick movie.
The Story of Islam. Interesting.
By Hal Craig. But yeah, you look into Islam and it gets kind of interesting.
To get bigger.
Which thing? Oh, these pictures? Oh, sweet.
Look at that.
I mean, sacred geometry, it's better than anthropomorphism, right? I mean, a single parent who writes books or the entire constellation of celestial bureaucracy.
I don't know what you said.
Well, I mean, so like the Muslims don't look at God as a person. You know, they're looking at the universe. Instead of trying to say God is in man's image, which sometimes we accidentally do, they're trying to say man is in the image of God in the universe as well. And so it's more, I mean, come on, that's an Alex Gray painting right there.
That's my favorite one. That one looks like an angel, basically.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And have you ever heard the stuff about the monks that were able to move boulders in the mountains with sound?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They had these giant trumpets that were like, they were like 30-foot, 50-foot trumpets, and longer than that. And they set them up. And then when they all focused the sound, like 4 guys would play the trumpets together and they would focus this sound. And then they'd be able to levitate these stones. Yeah.
Acoustic
sound
levitation.
cannons, man. They do acoustic levitation, and they'd be able to direct stones where they all kind of work together on it. Really,
that's wild.
Amazing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You saw the guy who made fire monk.
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that dude.
Not the one who caught himself. Not that one.
Fire monk.
No, the guy that does the newspaper by shaking his hand.
Yeah, and then he had to like go into hiding
or something.
He told him don't put this, like if you're gonna film it, don't show people. And of course, what are they gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this guy.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy stuff. I mean,
you can look up like real life superpower, and you'll probably find it. That's one of the ones that usually pops up.
I mean, so is there a reason why they try to keep X-Men from happening, and then at the same time only the government gets to have MK kids?
That's the narrative in a lot of these stories that were told. You know, of course, the X-Men is kind of the one where you have like a part of a system, but generally, if there were X-Men kids out there, they'd probably be in government facilities being trained for their purposes, and we would never actually hear about them. There's no
We're taking care of a bald guy. Yeah, taking care of a bald guy in a wheelchair.
Exactly. You guys ever watch that movie American Ultra?
Never.
That's the drug smuggling one, isn't it?
No, so what it is?
Yeah.
That was an odd one.
Well, it's super accurate as far as it sounds like. So he has to say like Echo Tango Strawberry Echo Eskmeyer, whatever it is, and it wakes him up. But otherwise, he's a stoner who's afraid of leaving his hometown, who's like a beta male all the time.
I remember this. Yeah, hipster Jason Bourne.
Right. As soon as he gets the right code words, though, then he's activated. So he no longer wants to hang out in his little hometown and work at a little convenience store and just smoke pot and be sedated all the time. And then he knows kung fu, right? And these guys are all hypnotized from getting into the system, maybe get arrested one time for pot in the Midwest or something. And then they say, hey, you can get out of it if you do a special circumstances, good behavior program. And then he joins it. So a lot of these people, maybe it's more just like TV hypnotism where we're sitting there in front of media that's teaching you how to respond. So many people are jacked in and learning the programming.
The algorithm does as well. The algorithm creates this feedback loop of it's basically a hypnosis.
I mean, that's a serious issue. People are, Google and all these systems that you're radicalized by the internet, right? Because
Like,
eventually you want more of the content. Let's say I started in the night and I click a video on Islam, and then I go to sleep. But then by the time I wake up, if the videos are still playing, it's followed more and more Islamic videos until
you know what happened? This is something really interesting that happened. I was looking at a lot of like Islamic videos, and in the advertisements they were showing me videos of people who converted from Islam to Christianity. So they were trying to counter the things that I have been watching, so that I don't get radicalized or anything like that.
See, in the old days, there was all these cases where kids were getting radicalized because you click on Islam and it takes you deeper and deeper into more and more Islamic. And if you keep watching, it just gets more and more extreme. And so that happened all the time. So they're maybe trying to change the algorithm a little bit in that way.
Well, yeah, that's it. I mean, sorry, go ahead.
I'm cutting you off.
For each different demographic, they have a different like way to steer and control the algorithm. The algorithm isn't only an echo chamber, because if it was, then you would have a whole bunch of, conspiracy videos all over YouTube. But if you go and look at conspiracy videos on YouTube now, you're going to be shown Fox News, and that's pretty much it. So like now all I get is constantly Fox News on YouTube. I say, like, I'm not interested in this channel, don't recommend it. And then I get clips of Fox News as put by other people on YouTube instead. And it's just like, there's no actual thing that I want in there. It's just giving me this sort of empty bullshit.
Rabbit hole. Dude,
I love that the meme I found is
thing it did to us. Like, if I left the YouTube on for 3 videos, it would always take me back to a Jordan Peterson video.
Exactly.
No, mine
too, Ryan.
Mine takes me back to Vaporwave every time, or like it gets me back on MK programming all the time. This is one of my favorite memes that came out of APM recently. Hold on, let me open it. There's a new tab. Because this is what happens when you click on a Trudeau video.
Dude, that was some of his best drama high school acting he'd ever done on that press conference. He had like the big side, like
the pause, right?
Whoa, there. Yeah. He's college educated, okay? He's a college educated actor.
He's a college educated snowboarder and part-time drama teacher.
He's doing what he's got to do.
It's true.
Hey man, that trust fund ain't gonna spend itself.
Oh man.
It seems like though, if you'd let people tap into their X-Men powers, you would just kind of end up back into the time frame of like of old like Hindu stuff, where like everyone was a deity and it was just these really big battles and wars. It was just kind of like everyone was an X-Men, and then you had people on the dark side and people on the other side, and it was just. So it's almost like we need television to keep people, watered down so they don't tap into it. So we're not just always fucking on that big battle. Are you saying
Disney bought the Marvel franchise to prepare us for this? I'm just saying they've been like making really crappy movies of like hedonistic superheroes, or like He-Woman is twerking and shit, or not He-Woman, Woman Hulk.
No, you're fine.
He-Woman was good. Like on Instagram, like us.
Imagination is a simulation, basically. So our brains are preparing us for something, and we don't really know what, but we're running all the simulations possible. And one of them is that we're going to mutate and develop extra sensorial powers. And who knows how that'll actually manifest, but a lot of people do think it's happening and that it has already happened. I mean, if you look in magic circles or in the new age circles, they all believe in, higher dimensional self and accessing like your daemon and all these things that are essentially, what happens.
And even basic people who, let's do it differently. Even Ray Kurzweil, who's not basic, but isn't really, he's kind of spiritual. And so I'm just saying, like, AI is another route. You don't have to be hyper religious about how we get there with X-Men. It could easily just be that singularity thing.
That's rebranded magic. That's all,
Yeah, exactly.
AI,
but
I disagree with the singularity, man. I think the singularity stuff's real dangerous.
Absolutely.
I think with singularity, because they want to trap your soul in a box so it can never escape, so that you're kind of stuck in this game forever. Because your whole whatever's inside of you, whatever keeps your battery ticking, that shit, I would imagine most of us know that it goes on. right? However you want to interpret it, there's something in us, and you know, you can jump back into the karmic cycle, or you can dip out and go for a space cruise. But this singularity shit wants to trap you in that fucking AI box so that you're just stuck and you can never get out.
I think that's part of the plan for safety that they want, is they're like, as people become X-Men, if they're all connected to a system where they can be hijacked at any point so they can be controlled and only can perform useful tasks, if they ever have any choices, they're turned on and turned off just for the choices that the systems allowed them to do. That's the meta person being produced by the state. That is the state singularity that I see as the alternative to a democratized future.
So, like, video games are a form of mind control. That's what I got out of this.
It's a form of mind control, but it's also a form of training because, again, these are simulations. We're running different patterns, like where we're fighting zombies or monsters or whatever we might be fighting. But
it's like Flight of the Navigator.
No, that was an
Last
alien.
Starfighter. Last Starfighter.
Last Starfighter is the best movie.
Armageddon is waged in the imagination.
Last Starfighter is definitely happening. I feel like this is definitely disclosure of what's going on. You know, this has happened a million times over. Simulation software being used for Ender's Game. You know, this kid was probably actually killing tons of life forms in some other reality. It wasn't even a simulation. He was just directly hijacked in. But then they wanted him in the cockpit, which is the funniest part of that whole movie. Like, why do you have to be in the cockpit if you can just control the ship? That's like a lot, bro. But you look at the MRIs of brains, and when they take acid, does stuff to your brain. When they take video games, completely grows weird parts of the brain, right? So they've found that certain parts of the brain don't develop because you're spending all that time. If you do both, great. But if you don't, then you're gonna have parts of your brain not develop. But if you do both, you'll also have increased benefit from the action reflex. So video games can be useful to an extent. But like, yeah, look at this. Huge parts of your brain growing, kind of what's associated with muscle memory is being grown here with reflex.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Man, I had to dial back on Xbox when I started figuring out that when you hold the controller with the triggers, it's a gun. You're holding on to like the ergonomics of it is identical to a gun. It's too much. I never realized that.
For a reason.
The Xbox controller does?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
If you look at the Xbox controller, it's so ergonomic when you hold it in your hand. Just that back, like the handles with the trigger. It's like you're holding two guns at all times.
Yeah, I can visualize that for sure.
Yeah.
That's why you shoot with those buttons.
Man, I loved that House of the Dead game. Like my brother and I, we get along when we play House of the Dead 2 on Dreamcast and Xbox. That was a good
Talk about MK Ultra, that one. Jeez.
But have you ever seen a monkey play video games? So if you were to take this game and put it in front of yourself or me or somebody else, we could do. We look at these numbers and then they just disappear. It's like a quick flash on the screen, and you can probably remember where some of those numbers are, maybe 2, 3, or 4 of them. But then they're going to play it for like an hour, and you're not going to be able to do it. This monkey can remember 20 places almost every time. It just has hyper awareness of what's going on because it has such great. And chimpanzees are great at video games, right?
So Matthew Broderick was right too, then.
Yes, X Games. Ooh, right? Is that right?
It's all of the '80s, man. All this stuff is basically '80s sci-fi come to fruition. I'm just saying.
Is that the movie Project X? What's it called again? Project X.
Not War Games, but I always
Project
call it
X.
War Games.
Project X. The one. We did good just now. I'm pretty impressed. That is a throwback right there. But this is a true story. It's actually based on real events where they were using monkeys. Sorry, I keep saying
to fly
chimpanzees
bombs into Russia, so they didn't have to worry about losing them.
Yeah, so people keep asking, can drones learn how to think as well as humans? I'm pretty sure they've already surpassed our ability to think in senses because they've used dolphins and monkeys to add to the equation of what AI is becoming, right?
So, dude, by this timeline, that means Lawnmower Man is about 4 years away.
Well, I mean, how long is it? How long is it going to?
Just got voted in, did he not? And isn't he like an R-tard or whatever, or a stroke victim?
How long is it going to take for Mark Zuckerberg, all these billionaires, how long is it going to take for him to make Metaverse actually awesome? Like, is he going to have to go to a festival? How many Burning Mans does it take to make a Metaverse for Mark Zuckerberg?
think it requires neural interface to actually be viable, or else you just have a cheap video game.
Look at that catchphrase. God made him simple, science made him God. That's fine.
Yeah. Interesting. I've never seen this movie.
Oh, you've never seen this movie? It's so good.
It's terrible, man.
Yeah, but
like Pet Sematary. It's
to
like
me,
Stephen King, like not quite A-level stuff. Like
sure,
The Shining.
But it's not. I'm not looking for quality. I'm looking for stuff they hide in fiction.
Right.
So
the story is great. The story is great, but the bad virtual reality. Oh man, that's like.
At that point, just watch Shocker. Shocker was so much better for the VR.
Shocker?
Yeah. It's about this serial killer who got electrocuted, but then because they didn't know the internet back then, once he got electrocuted, the lightning hit the building and it put him into the TV. And then he starts murdering people from the TV. The final scene is awesome, where they're like running through all the TV networks on cable, and he's trying to murder this dude.
I got a throwback for you. VR Troopers.
Oh, I love VR Troopers. You ever watch that? VR Troopers was wild. It was like next generation. So, Super Sentai became Power Rangers. Saban's VR Troopers started out as what show? What was their Japanese?
Another Sentai show.
Ultraman?
Yeah. It was from...
Ultraman's good.
It's a combination of a few shows. Stock footage from 3 different Metal
Hero series. Yeah, Metal Hero. Yeah, the Metal Hero series.
One that they had a gun that you could buy a gun that was a spaceship. It was like Captain Falcon or something like that. Do you guys remember this one?
Captain Falcon?
The TV show would play, and then you could shoot. It was like the Nintendo gun, and then if you did the fight scenes with your gun as you're watching the show. I can't remember what the name it was, though.
Mace...
Damn,
no
I just
idea.
remember that dude. He was in what's it called? Smash Brothers, right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the F-Zero Captain Falcon, though. I think.
Yeah,
that's right.
You know what?
VR Troopers was so wild though, because you literally were telling kids, "Hey, the future is existing in this virtual non-Euclidean space, right?" And that's far more real than anything else they've ever told us about. Really, they're like, "Get ready, you'll be working in the non-Euclidean space. First job you're going to want to have." Being a police officer to enforce the rules there. Trust us. It's going to get wild.
It gets wild.
Yeah, they just look like future cops. That's crazy.
That's cool because that's what Super Sentai is. So Power Rangers started out as Super Sentai, and
Cosmic
this is
police, time police.
Right. That just means like super soldier battle squadron. Sentai is like battle squadron. So they're saying in the future, when the rest of the world finally admits that they can't do it anymore and they need Japan, then Japan has been waiting all along and ready to save the world from the serious troubles that are coming. And these problems are, it's like Gestalt psychology is a good start. They
got the double Hitler salute. That's not bad.
They have every
double. Check out Power Rangers versus TMNT.
Dude, I found the other one too. Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future. That was the
Captain
one.
Power, Jesus.
Yeah.
Captain Planet was legit.
Yeah, you buy a spaceship and you put the guy in it, and then at certain points.
Oh, I remember this now.
Oh, I do remember. I had toys for this thing. Yeah.
Can't believe you brought us back. That's so crazy. Yeah, and this was so ridiculous because all it did was it flickered. The screen would flicker a light on the video, and then the gun would
trigger in the right time. Your guy would die.
Yeah, and the gun would just tell you that you either got the flicker or you missed the flicker, basically. Yeah. Pretty sweet idea. Man, but Lawnmower Man, like this poor guy, he's already kind of insane is the point. He's this lawnmower guy who's kind of on the edge of schizophrenia. And
that
so
said that there was a series coming out for it.
Really? All right. That makes sense because it's what happens next. And he's using like the virtuality system to do it. But yeah, Super Sentai, the entire idea is that they are the world police that are coming for the New World Order or whatever is the next thing. What is this Power Rangers versus TMNT? That's a thing? That's horrifying.
It was the worst crossover that was ever made. No, but they had at some point a crossover of the TV shows, and it was just pure. They had a female. It was woke before woke. They had a female turtle actually.
Was it live action?
Yeah.
Oh man, that's insane. That's terrifying. I don't know. It seems like we're getting to a point where the world is about to transform, and they're getting ready for us to need to be able to do new things, and a lot of the tasks among literally a chimpanzee could do better than us, you know. So what are we gonna do? How are we gonna make it?
Well, the currency of the future is ideas, and so with the AI that's coming, we're going to have something very different in terms of how we manifest our inner workings and the things that we want. You know, like art is going to transform. You don't have to devote your entire life to constructing your craft and to building your skills. Now you'll be able to write it into a prompt and things will just come to you, you know? And so a lot of the things, especially in creative mediums, will change in terms of dynamic. And that changes the whole way that we deal with our own psyches, because art is how we cope with them. So, you know, now everyone's going to be an artist, especially when we come to like neural interfacing with it. At that point, we'll have just literally psyche to machine one-to-one. Language won't be an issue anymore. So we'll be auto-generating VR worlds, you know, like it is going to be a whole new realm to explore. Who knows what's going to happen with the rest of the world, but I know that VR is going to get very weird and AI is going to get very weird.
Yeah, but what you think, who do you think is better, that chimp with the memory, or you think like some Rain Man autistic dude?
Rain Man autistic dude any day.
Rain Man.
That's what I mean. Like, so maybe we just need more autistic people, and that will help us defeat AI.
Sure. You know, I think that there's a component of the way that they use archetypes in our civilization that is trying to push humans towards some sort of ascension. I mean, all our heroes are transcendent, and so that's what we're meant to emulate. And eventually, hopefully, we'll get there. I'm putting
omega point and alpha point, omega and alpha. There's like the omega point of human evolution, and the alpha point of human civilization.
Nice Teilhard Chardin reference right there. Yeah, the omega point. I'm a firm believer in the omega point. I love how a priest had to go with, I don't know, I mean, God, it's kind of lowercase deity thing, but omega point for sure. That's a thing.
That's an interesting symbol. That's actually dark side symbol in DC. So like the embodiment of anti-life. That's it.
It's interesting. The omega point is supposed to be the final culmination of all things. So God is at the end.
Check out the anti-life equation. Grant Morrison.
Pulling it up. Anti-life equation.
Let's go to image. You're gonna get the go to the look down the next row. Second to last in the next row.
This one or this one?
Yeah, the one with the words.
Okay.
If you can get a bigger one.
Loneliness.
So this is the anti-life equation.
Loneliness, alienation, fear plus despair, self-worth divided by mockery. I'm messing up the equation. Loneliness plus alienation plus fear plus despair plus self-worth divided by divided by mockery, divided by condemnation, divided by misunderstanding, times guilt, times shame, times failure, times judgment, where n equals y, where y equals hope and n equals folly. Love equals life.
Anywhere. By the way, anywhere. Ny where is anywhere?
Oh, that's nice. Anywhere is life equals death. Self equals dark seed.
Fuck! I gotta do bed mass now. What do we do? We gotta do the division first.
This is created by the guy who made essentially the hyper sigil, and the goal was to mimetically end our civilization.
Yeah, you only need this if you're trying to end civilization. So don't worry about the precision of the math.
Just watch out for the anti-life equation. It sort of sneaks its way around.
Exactly. I think that's
mimetic. It's mimetic technology. It's a mimetic contaminant.
I mean, a lot of people seem to be all about anti-life, right? Because, you know, if you create a world that doesn't live, it doesn't die, and dying, anti-aging is a big thing. What do you think about anti-aging movement?
Look up David Sinclair, Harvard. David Sinclair, Harvard. He has some really radical ideas. Yeah, this guy, the Sinclair Lab. Yeah.
What's he doing?
Some really, really radical research on anti-aging. He's basically thinking aging is a disease and that can be reversed.
Isn't that the basis of Resident Evil?
Aging is weird, right? Because think about it, hear me out. Like when people get to a point where they're starting to age to death, it is kind of like finding out that they have AIDS, and you're like, oh, you're living with AIDS, okay, and you're gonna die soon. And so, I mean, right? So many people that you're like, oh well, there's nothing we can do. There's only a matter of time. I mean, there are a lot of things that are very similar, and what are we even supposed to do about it? Granted, overpopulation, etc., but quality of life for the individual, shouldn't it be to cure aging so that you have preventative medical control of death?
Yeah, and he was actually proposing that aging, if treated as a disease, a lot of opponents would say like, oh, there would be like population and whatnot, and he's saying that if there is more population, then there is more taxpayers. More slaves for the machine.
To me, the aging stuff. I take after Prince. Man, Prince had. I always wondered, how does your body know its clock? Right? There's no clock inside you, so how does your body?
There is a clock inside you. It's called the circadian rhythm.
Yeah, but that's in the earth, and you just go by it. So really, if nobody reminded you about your birthday or about the calendar, how would you even know how long you have to live?
There are certain gene networks that actually keep time. So all our genes are oscillating. All of our genes are oscillating. So these oscillations collectively is keeping that time. What you're saying, like, where is the time?
To me, that seems like
they're keeping the time.
To me, it seems like you have to spend all this time and your life to try and figure out some kind of formula of what's happening inside our body, but you have some people that just don't age. So how do they pull it off?
Maybe you can do it through sheer will,
because
maybe some of it seems mental, some of it seems maybe environmental, maybe the environment's poisoning us and aging us, but I think that there's a lot of stuff like, man, to spend all this time to try to defeat aging.
I didn't know I was supposed to die of old age, so I just didn't,
Yeah, there you go, man. And just because you have 90-year-olds that are in great shape. What was that? Jack LaLanne died, and he was still doing like 100 push-ups a day. There's something in you that at some point in your life, you just kind of stop jumping. And in a way, and then that's almost like you just keep aging.
Well, there's all this talk about, people who might have been immortal for centuries already with the Philosopher's Stone, right? People that are at the height of the elite, beyond the elite, so that you can't even see their roles in society because they're so well situated. It would explain a lot of like hyper accumulated wealth and everything like that. Nostradamus' prediction, translated recently, says 2030 is supposed to be when the Philosopher's Stone is discovered again. So it will be a question.
How many sacrifices will it take to make it?
There was a movie that came out. I can't remember the name now. It was something like The Man Who Came to Dinner or some shit. It was this guy who came to dinner and tells people that he's like 900 years old, and nobody believes him. And then he begins to explain how he did it. He just kind of if he moves around from town to town, so nobody remembers him.
There is a state in Buddhism. It's called Tukdam, Thukdam. If you look it up, Thukk. DAM, Tukdam. So this is the state where all genes, basically at the genetic level, genes switch off oscillating, where they can extend life. So now in Harvard, they're studying this state, and it's basically, they cannot say the person is dead because it's post-death. Like they enter in a clinical dead state, but their genes are at the very lowest oscillation level. Their genes are switching on and off, but they are basically clinically dead. It's
Jesus did that for 3 days, then he showed back up.
Yeah,
so there you go.
Before, man.
Tukdam, yeah. So this is the state.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, there was that. You guys see that show Warrior Nun?
No.
Yeah, that's a funny show.
Weirdly based show. I'm pretty sure about Joan of Arc.
I've heard of it. Yeah, okay.
And deal is this girl she dies. Let's just no spoilers. She dies, and then they like have a nun who's a warrior nun with a Buffy like powers from this angel's halo, which is a metallic seraphim piece of antiqua technology, and they just jam it into this dead girl, and it brings her back to life, and all of a sudden she's a superstar who's got to like fight with the warrior nuns, and it's pretty based. It's a pretty good show actually. Based on a comic book, so of course there's that for it. But yeah, she goes into Tukdam basically. I was thinking the whole time maybe she's not really dead and she's doing the meditative state because she was just like, you know.
So it's like a sacred undead.
Yeah.
Like the positive version of a zombie, basically.
I mean, and then there's
someone in the comments posted the movie. It's called The Man from Earth.
Oh yeah. That is a very good movie, to be honest. Man from Earth.
It's a very interesting concept.
I watched it. It's really good. He doesn't die, so he lives forever, kind of like Vandal Savage from DC.
Randall Savage is in DC. Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Holding on to a cock mushroom.
All mushrooms are cocks.
Oh right, this was like a low budget. I remember this now.
Yeah, man, it took place in one room. Like it's a great idea for a film. Like you just take one location and the whole thing.
What's it about, Kevin?
It's this. So this guy apparently, like he hasn't died. Like if you stay out of trouble, like he can get killed. You could shoot him. You could run him over. But he just kind of keeps a low key. He's a teacher. He goes to schools, but he doesn't stay long enough for people to remember him. And he just kind of keeps floating through time. And he's seen like all the ups and downs of human civilization. It's really cool. And nobody at the dinner table kind of believes him. They just think he's nuts.
He's basically telling a story, but he's lived through it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like Highlander, except minus the action.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Which you gotta imagine there would be like a lot more action if you were, that's the thing in the Sandman, Immortal Man. I don't know the bar. What's it called? What do I even look up to find?
Yeah.
He goes to a bar all the time. I don't know, bar.
I think it's like they have a coffee together every century or something.
Yeah, Death's a Mugs game.
This is my favorite franchise of all time, by the way.
Yeah, it's super great. Mugs game. I'm gonna type that in, it'll help come up with it. But yeah, he basically goes to a bar in the 13th century. Dude says he doesn't want to die because it's stupid to die. He's like, it's not going to do it. I refuse. And then Death's there and Death's brother's dream. He's like, all right, well, what if we just meet in 100 years? And he continues to meet him. But as time goes on, it's like, this is great, except for when they eventually find out. And then they destroy his life and, think he's a witch and try to kill him, which sucks when you're immortal. Like, if you're not a witch trials or whatever, because you just die. But if you are and you live through it, that would suck, over and over again. So that might be a thing, people hunting down immortals, in the future. Vampire hunters is like such an important part of we have the plague and then we have these vampire hunter stories,
Yep.
Maybe that's
anything, man. If you had any kind of supernatural gift, why the fuck would you tell anybody?
Because movies tell you to.
Well, but you're gonna get tested on. Good one, you're gonna get fucking probes in you and shit.
That's if you're smart.
If you figure it out, if you figure it out, just say nothing. Use it to your advantage and don't say shit.
Blade 2 is where it's at. Blade 2 is a freaking awesome.
Yeah, I'm about to rewatch the Blade movies.
Nice.
I should do it.
I'm gonna probably rewatch the best.
The best
I'm gonna got Ron Perlman in there. Oh, so good.
Yeah, Ron Perlman is genius, man. What up?
He's so good. Ron Perlman is amazing. My uncle met him, and he is just a freaking tank, man. That guy.
These movies, though, I mean, they're all about this idea. It's not just the allegory has already been made. Vampires to nanotechnology, adenoviral mutation, transhumanism. I mean, it'll probably be something where, like, there was a thing. If you take antibiotics, you're not supposed to go in the sunlight. I remember I had some antibiotics once that said that. I can only imagine.
Yeah, I did too, actually.
Vampires don't have a soul in like any mythology, I don't think.
Well, they have it depends because there's different types of vampires as time has passed. We have the ones that are redeemed vampires, and then because it's a hierarchy.
They're energy vampires.
It's a hierarchy based on the Dracula myth that has been diluted over time. So you have the redemptive vampire like Angel or
Angel's so cool. I love Angel.
But he actually gets his soul back in the story. Nice. That's the whole.
Yeah, it's super implausible though, because imagine you get your soul back, and that's what I liked about Spike. Even though I prefer the Angel show, the reality is when Spike gets his soul back, it sucks for a couple days, but heavy drinking, he's back on his feet, drinking blood again. And Angel is like 200 years later, he's still drinking rats, and you're just like, bro, like, he moved to LA. Like it doesn't take very long to lose your soul in LA. Like, what do you even? Sure. I don't know. The thing is just impossible.
But like these stories, they're a way to turn us into these sort of mimetic parasites where we're there as consumers, and we don't really think about it, because like a low tier vampire, like a low level vampire, is basically a zombie. Like they're just following the whims of the master, and so it's the same idea in terms of a mimetic structure where you become like this sort of drone that just wants to be a weird, edgy.
That's all vampires are. They're at the base of the pyramid. They're just trying to fulfill their physiological needs. And
that's the lower class of vampire. The higher class are like Dracula. They're the elite. They're the ones who feed off of the collective, as opposed to using brainwashing and shapeshifting and all these things.
The best vampire was what's her face, Kate Beckinsale in Underworld. Yeah, she did a good vampire.
Yeah, but she was just sexy.
I didn't notice.
Pretty cute. Yeah. Kevin over here.
I really could believe her character.
There is like the Polish vampires called Strigoys, right?
We have Dracula 2000.
Oh, I love that movie. Oh man, hold on. Polish vampires. What are the Polish vampires called? What is it?
Strigoi. STRI. Basically, they were either Polish or Romanian, something.
Strigoi.
Yeah, this way, Strigoi.
Dang. All right, let's go there. Come on, we got this. Internet. Boom. Yeah, that's creepy. Do they have souls, or what are they? Because like usually, like Slavic things start out as humans that are so evil they lose their humanity, but they stick. I mean, they stay the soul of what they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Have you ever read Have you ever read the Zombie Survival Guide?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Striga. To scream.
Real quick, Zombie Survival Guide. Yeah, very good book. Yeah, it's very useful stuff.
It is. Actually. I've seen some Striga in The Witcher. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, there's a few references to them.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, these ones have very little humanity to them. They start to lose their humanity a bit more.
They're more like the feral ghouls in Fallout than the vampires we have in our mythology, basically.
Yeah, Dracula 2000 does have that sort of like techno mysticism, used magic in order to get to the point. Dracula in general.
The thing is that in this one, Dracula is Judas, so they make a connection between, like, first of all, it's Gerard Butler, and that's hilarious. But they make the connection between the sign of the cross. That's why he has an aversion to it. He has an allergy to silver because those were silver coins that he got for betraying Jesus. And the way to kill him is you have to hang him. Of basically how he tried to commit suicide. And it was an interesting twist on it. It's just the movie's fucking dog shit. But,
Dracula. Go ahead.
They made a recent Dracula movie. That one show. Sorry, that with that actor. The first image. Yeah, BBC, and it was interesting, but they kind of the problem with modern takes on Dracula is they secularize it. So they take out all the religious aspects of it while still having the fucking vampire. And it's like they're neutering all the aspects of the vampire to, I think, hyper normalize them so that we don't think about them as the elite or as the problem anymore. While
by the way, so Vince,
I like that.
Saying, so what's with the vampires and the cross? Because do you know about the curse of the cross?
Curse of the Cross depends which.
It's basically in Deuteronomy 21, 22 to 23, the Old Testament.
Maybe not.
Yeah, it's anyone hung upon a pole is under God's curse.
Interesting.
So crucifixion was actually the symbolic representation of God's curse.
Wow, that's crazy. Cross is a cross or pole?
This exactly. So you will be cursed in the city and cursed in the country, and then you'll see what's coming. So
So this is for someone who gets put on a cross, or someone who crucifies someone.
No, you're right. Someone who is put on a cross is the one who is cursed, and the symbology is basically
Doesn't he just die?
So this is basically, if a man has committed a crime punishable by death and he's put to death and you hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain all night.
For hanged man is cursed by God.
Okay, so you have to bury him. Basically, you have to put him in solid ground in order to break.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's already cursed by God.
Yeah, so exactly.
It could be it's like a haunting ordeal.
Process, so
perhaps it renders the soul, and
anyone who is hung on a tree is under God's curse. 21:23.
Wow, that explains a lot about
old Abrahamic symbolism.
That explains a lot about like Southern American. Well, the American South, their curses.
That's insane. That's really interesting. I mean, also the thing about vampires is the blood, right? So it's not just that they live forever; it's that they're consuming human blood. We do have like True Blood now, which might be a brand synthetic. There might be a generic True Blood by next year. But you look throughout history, and it's always that they were Mary of Bath taking baths in blood. The elite, this article from Smithsonian calling our dislike of cannibalism hypocritical. Looking as there was a guy recently in Germany who was arrested for cannibalism, and they had to release him because there's no law against cannibalism. They had to make a new law about it. I mean, there's laws about killing people, but that's different. And maybe desecrating a corpse, you could probably do something with that, but that's not nearly as bad. But it also had consent, so it's all confusing. And looking back, this was very common at some point. There were, and this is the joke. At some point, theoretically, it doesn't really show where. Yeah, no, there's no point in this article showing when the elite stopped doing this.
Now we have like they put it in our faces with certain symbolic gestures, like the spirit cake stuff, I don't know what to call it, but like
spirit cooking,
where they make mock human bodies and then eat them, like forming it into a cake.
Do you have a French word for spirit cooking? I'm sure it's actually way scarier that way.
Not particularly. I mean, le cuisson d'esprit, like it's not particularly different.
This is adorable. This is an APM for later.
That Serbian bitch, man. That Serbian bitch is evil, man.
See, now you make more sense that you're a Croat. I just love you more, Kev. That's just
so like I mean we can say that they're not actually vampires. Maybe they don't eat babies. I don't know, but all the symbols of them eating the poor is rampant, And then you have the inversion of that, which is eat the rich, and so it's like that's the eat the rich is basically zombies. Like you can think of it that way. Like you turned us into consumers, now we're going to consume you, and the consumer is the zombie. He's the low rung vampire.
Yep. Man, to me, there's a weird, like they've always trained us on blood. They even teach you in church, drink the blood of Christ.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. This is
there's a very weird
you're bringing up.
Yeah, they're constantly feeding us this idea.
And another thing I was thinking, like vampires are cursed, so you need a bigger curse than the vampire to cut the the vibes. So I mean, like you need the cross to cut the vampires.
It doesn't need to be a curse, because I mean, it depends which framework you look at it as. If you look at it as miracles versus demonic magic, then it can be considered white magic, and it doesn't have to be a curse. You don't have to curse a demon, because the thing is that demons, let's say you try to kill a demon, sometimes it's part of a ritual. It's a ritualistic act to kill a demon, especially if it just goes back to hell and then comes back. And so this is you feeding into, basically turning yourself into a monster, gazing into the abyss to become.
But I think there is something to killing a demon, man. I think you're supposed to send them back to hell because they don't even want to be there. You know what I mean?
Sure.
They enjoy coming here because this is almost their paradise.
I agree, but I think there's a way to do it that isn't playing into the hands of that demon, whatever it may be.
By the way, Andrew,
but it's not even demon. It's like you know when you do an exorcist, right there. You gotta cast that demon out, right?
Sure.
Like you gotta yell at him a bit. You gotta.
That's its aversion to the sacred, though. I mean, if you're vulgar to a demon, he'll just be vulgar right back. If you act holy towards it, then it gets disempowered and hurt.
What was that? What was that Keanu Reeves movie that he did?
Constantine.
Oh, that was a good one.
Yeah,
they turned him
that was
into a woman
one.
in Sandman, the Sandman Netflix.
That was a bummer. I mean, I have no problem. I have no problem
really
normally with anything, but I wish they hadn't done that to Constantine. I wish they just used even the British guy because they could continue the series. But all right.
Wait, what did they do? What did they
do? They turned her into a character called Joanna Constantine because they wanted to get rid of, I guess, the toxic male aspect, which is Constantine. He's a low rung, like, you know, he goes to dive bars and meets demons there, and like he's
Right.
like where.
So they get this woman. It's just like, it just sucks. It just ruined it. I mean, I wish
it's actually his ancestor in the comics. She's his ancestor from like the 1800s. But now they just made her the main one, and
they made her a prude.
What
Also,
a waste! What a waste! She works for the kid. She works for the queen. You know, it's just.
Sandman's the greatest comic book, but Hellblazer's really good too. And if you look at Hellblazer, right? Hellblazer, and all of the Constantine stuff is just. I mean, he's in the ditch he's smoking cigarettes and he's about to die, and he has to go perform an exorcism. I mean, it's pretty relatable.
For sure,
it was human. I'll give it that.
But yeah, exorcisms are a pretty serious part of this because you got all these people like, how does it start in the movie? She has a Ouija board. She's not going to church. There's no blessing over her. And then yet we're talking, it's like the Catholic Church, do we need the Catholic Church to do this? Or because I feel like if I tried using a King James Bible, it'd probably work. But if I use like an NIV, like pamphlet from the Protestants, I don't think it would really kick the demons out the same.
I think, there's plenty of cultures that have had exorcisms before Catholicism came around. And so like, they can be done, shamans can do it, and there's different medicine men for that in different tribes. So to say like,
but last year when I went to Croatia, and it's been like 20 years since I went back to like the hometown and all that shit. I went to Medjugorje where that was like where the kids saw the Virgin Mary in the mountains, and there was a church there, and there was one of the times I went to the church, there was this lady having like this, they were doing like an exorcism on this lady, and it for sure wasn't like, it wasn't a play. They weren't fucking around. It was like some lady, you could easily maybe just go, she's got a mental illness, but the shit that this lady was saying was like really dark and demonic, talking about like end of time shit. It was very strange, man. It was very surreal to witness.
You got Croatians in the chat. Melissa's like, what village is Kevin from?
The thing is,
man, I'm born Canadian, but my whole family, like I'm first gen Canadian. Everyone I know is from there.
He's from the village in that movie, The Village.
Right. Well, thank you for reminding me that South Park actually featured Croatia in an episode. That's an amazing fact. And I remember one time I'm here at the Medjugorje with my dad, and we're with my cousin who's a police officer and a Catholic and Croat. And so he's like, my dad's like, oh wait, there it is. And he points with his finger at the statue. And then my cousin just grabs my dad's hand, pulls it down. He's like, don't point at the Mother Mary. Don't you know you're not supposed to point at the Mother Mary? And my dad's like, what are you talking about? And then every time he looked away, he would point again. And then for the next week, my dad had like chest pains. And I was like, I don't know, man. It felt like a Woody Allen movie. I was like, maybe there's something to that magic. You got to be careful.
We're all possessed by lesser demons. That's just part of our psychology. It's part of the shadow. There's things that lurk in all our shadows, but they're not the same sort of demonic entities that we would see in the movie Exorcist. It's not, the devil or a higher demon. We all have our demons. I went to that cave. They all have their pound of flesh that they want.
What did you think of the cave? I have a friend who worked on the Muppets, and he also did Croatian propaganda during the war. We're gonna have him on again soon, Joe Tripp. And I was always like, what do you think about all that? And he's a propagandist, so he thinks the whole thing is just like state-sponsored publicity about magic. But I can't help but think there's something to this. What do you think?
That cave, so we went there, and it was bananas. Me and my girlfriend went. Nobody in the town, everybody we told, we go, hey man, we're gonna go to this cave, and it's like 20 minutes outside of town, and nobody's heard of it. Nobody like in town is familiar with it. So we go, and the lady that was the tour guide, she took us in, and then there was a spot that they weren't allowed to let people in yet, but also we were like the only people that came in a week or so. So they let us go into this tunnel in the cave at the bottom.
Wow.
And you go in and there's no light in the tunnel. And when we turned our flashlights on the phone, the whole cave that we were in, like you have to crawl through this little tunnel, you get in and the entire thing is just glittering. It feels like you're in the middle of space. It was something that the lady told us this story. It was like there was fairies there and some shit. Like there's very non-religious kind of folklore to it. Oh, and I was at the pyramids too, man. That was a cool
This is the
place.
Bosnian pyramids, right?
Yeah. So what do you think about this? Because again, this is I get why you don't want your home to be a UNESCO heritage site, because that would be like you can't remodel it. But they're telling you that this isn't real. They're like, this is a mirage, you know.
No, man, there's no way. When you go, it's literally a pyramid just covered in dirt. Like we went, we took a couple tabs of acid and we started walking up. Like they take you halfway up the pyramid and then the rest of the halfway you're on your own. So
man, Croatia's changed in a decade. Sorry, keep going.
Man, it was really weird, man. We got to go in these, they had tunnels underground. There's a lot of water that runs underneath, which also is something similar to the Egyptian pyramids where they had water running underneath. So it definitely seems like, I mean, if you had to just throw something out there, it almost seems like a very high level, like energy battery for the city, something like that. But there's something very real to it, man. That it's not just, it's just basically a pyramid covered with dirt and grass. But it's there.
I'm a big fan of the idea that the pyramids were keeping the weather and energy patterns with bells, right? Did we talk about the bells before? So Liberty Bell, if you look at the Liberty Bell in the 19th century, it's, you know, the broken bell, right? But it's broken in this, it looks like it was purposefully broken. That's a crazy break in the bell. And if you like type in bells 19th century, or if I type maybe in like the Napoleon War, let's see, like war, you can see it's just crazy. These giant bells you find at the end of the war broken. Like, this is the most important thing for them to do, is to destroy all the bells. Why? Well, you know, we just talked about Royal Rife and sound healing. So you might have some idea where I'm going with this idea that these bells were environmentally essential. They have a pitch correct, like every time a church is built within the distance of another church's bell ringing, it can then send the signal, kind of like whales, right? It's the same tone being broadcast, and it continues a resonance frequency. And so by disrupting that frequency so that at the same time they can't continue the stream, then it completely destroyed maybe whatever infrastructure, you know, Randall Carlson's talking about.
Right, wasn't there also a German, didn't they say aliens gave the Germans like a Bell spaceship or some shit like that?
No,
the Glockenspiel?
There was a project. There was a project. One of the weapons that Hitler was working on alongside nuclear weapons that they called the Bell, and it was allegedly like a time travel device using magnets. And they never found the bell. They only
they did.
They were tied to.
I know where the bell is. So, sorry. I mean,
something called Red Mercury.
So first off, I had an East German exchange student growing up, and so he's from East Berlin, and I've gone to East Berlin several times. I remember, I think 1999, we went out to this old quarry lake, giant lake, man-made lake. It was quarried out for all of the steel, and along this concrete road that's been there since the 30s, it's just, you know, they made it right once, and they just haven't had to update it. You get to the point of this spot, and this is where the bell was at that point. So yes, you're correct. The bell is no longer there, but a lot of the parts of it are. And if you look at some of the other things like nuclear Hummel, will this work if I type that in?
The
project.
Conspiracy theory is that Hitler ran away with the bell with his girlfriend, and that's it. That's the conspiracy theory, that they used technology, went back in time, and then they fucked with the timeline, and that's why we are where we are.
Dude, Trevor Moore is awesome.
Look, if you can't beat them with the nuclear explosions, you gotta like play the long game, I guess, or the meta game, whatever it may be. I don't know if they succeeded. Hope not, but.
Oh, that makes me think. You ever watch Tenet? That last what's his name?
Tenet, yeah.
Christopher Nolan
movies.
Yeah, that one was kind of pretty cutting edge.
Temporal technology.
Yeah, but that kind of makes sense too if you base it on the fact that, like, you know, people say all time is now, past, present, and future. So if that's the case, there could be a way where you could kind of alter it in real time, and in doing so, you're kind of switching history and therefore changing the future.
Right. Look, this is all written. This is all in the fountain. Okay, like, just watch the fountain. You're gonna get.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, Sleep Dealer, which ties back into the VR thing as well, because you've got a town in Mexico where the village is just bombed out because they're collecting rainwater, which is illegal. So they have to buy it from Coca-Cola. Then the guy has to make money to buy water for his family. He ends up in Mexico City, where the only job available is cleaning windows in Dubai over VR sets. And while he's working, he realizes that that's all just a cover for them draining his dream. You know, they're taking his dream hormones and they're selling that to the elite.
What's that called? What was that one called?
That one's called Sleep Dealer. It's in Spanish.
It's Spanish? Okay.
I think I watched this with my brother. Yeah,
it's pretty good. It's one of the better movies come out of Mexico in the last like 5 or 10 years even. It's a pretty great movie. A lot of good movies in Mexico though. Look at this guy. Freaking nuts. Well, we're about 2 hours deep. Is there anything you want to make sure we cover before we tell you where you can get more of your content? Let's just scroll back through this stuff real quick. Remember where we've been today.
That was a good show.
Oh, you know what's great? I missed the whole stuff that you guys were talking about, the assisted suicide. But there's a funny thing to tie that together. So you know how Canada passed the assisted suicide? They also did an article saying that kids are now going into hospitals for suicide, like treatment. There's a lot more kids being suicidal now than there ever was. And I think it's good timing with this assisted suicide, because then they're going to have reasons to be able to legally kill kids.
And babies be depressed. We were just talking about this idea of a mature minor, which is 1 to 12. And so you're saying, imagine the depression a parent's going to have, because if they have postpartum depression, they didn't quite fill out the paperwork and get the abortion in time. It's going to take 365 days until that baby's mature enough, to be euthanized. That is where
look, you gotta sacrifice virgins.
Really late abortion.
You gotta sacrifice virgins to make Philosopher's Stone.
God, but imagine. So I remember Thanksgiving, and this is gonna be a comment last year. Quentin, this kid, he's 9, he was 8 or so at the time, said, I'm thankful my mother didn't abort me. Right. And so then this year, what you can say is, I'm thankful that I'm not too depressed to live. Right. Something like that.
Back in my day, we just gave them like sad music and that's it. And they were fine. Move
that's
on.
True.
This is because you can't hit kids anymore, man.
Move on with your life.
Just slap kids again, spank them, and
I don't recommend that, but that's not. I don't think the solution is physical abuse. I don't think that'll cure the world's problems.
I mean, it's that or child sacrifices.
No, I think what we need to do is we need to empower our kids more. Like, they should all be taking martial arts. They should all be.
Every kid needs a neurotic, stressed out Croatian father screaming half the time about something else going on in their life, just so that they can deal. It's kind of like boot camp, and then you're Mr. Pain through, and you're ready to go.
If you don't get childhood trauma and like massive issues with your parents, you're not doing it right.
That is
exactly.
With the vampires and like what we discussed, at least in some versions, not having souls. The takeaway I think from that is kind of that I think most ideologies and religions would affirm that a person has a soul. And so the soul as a concept, you could say that all of these societies have interpreted the soul as being meant to be released back into the universe and God. And so like when you become a vampire or something similar, you basically forfeit your contract. You forfeit your contract, so your soul gets released back to where it needs to be released to prematurely. And then you just have that shell essentially keep on Earth for the rest of it. I don't know. I thought that was like a weird line draw. I don't know if that's resonating at all, though.
I mean, because earlier today I was talking about artificial general intelligence. So general, I wanted to replace with Geist, right? And so Ray Kurzweil and all these people talking about it. It's the inevitability that they have to talk about the spirit, and everyone's afraid of the word soul. So I feel like Geist is a pretty good one because it's like the gist of it. If you read it really quickly or something, you're like, what's the gist of it? You know,
look, all these words, you can replace them, but what we're talking about is what we're trying to point to, and that's the real thing. Call it a soul or not, it's still a soul, whatever that is, you know? We're just mad at Christians, basically. That's all.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Like,
weird because
Catholic Church, how dare you? Now I don't want to be associated with your words you like. It's like, dude, it's just words.
Well, yeah, if you mention soul, it's like I think there's like a mental code switching that goes on when you use the word soul, because it seems, I think, normalized if we say, oh, vampires have no soul, because in folklore they have no soul. Whereas if we generally bring about the word soul, well, that like pushes the triggers of religious affiliation, to which I think we've estranged that to a certain point. So,
right, well, this secularization is like, if vampires don't have souls and souls aren't real, then we don't have souls. Therefore, we're basically like equal to them. So
yeah,
you know, let's make them our neighbors and our friends and shit while they suck our blood. And like, no, sorry, it's a bad mythological structure.
That was a good one.
Off the rail.
Epistemology, just hold me back. All right. Well, let me pull up some of these things. First off, Ryan had to leave a little early. We missed you, Ryan. Here's his YouTube page. He's got his new book, Fuck Files, the sequel is coming out or just came out. I'm not sure. He just finished it, so that should be done soon. And watching his live is always good, but his videos are amazing. If you don't have an older brother equivalent to Jordan Peterson in your life trying to stop you from fighting with your girlfriend about things that really are just emotional processing missions she should be on herself, Ryan Stone's the guy for you. He'll definitely help you out. I love that guy. So then there's and he'll talk about Canada too. We'll get him to do it. And then Jordan, the Divulgence podcast, one of the greatest podcasts in the world. A lot of the talks that are doing on MK Ultra are here as well, but there's some extra stuff that you can find, including his amazing talks with, name some stuff. Ramsey. There's just so many amazing talks here.
William Ramsey, Donald Jeffries. We've got on Addy
right.
Ad. We've got Andreas Xirtus on there. Scott Horton, Lynn Phillip Hodgson. Troy McLaughlin. We bring on a lot of good people. I got a lot of stuff.
You got Aurora on? I love Aurora. That's awesome.
I've got Aurora on twice. We're gonna bring her back. She's great. She's a great.
Yeah, she's cool.
Show. I mean, I'm working on a lot of stuff, so I haven't been releasing as much as recently because I'm working on stuff. But make sure to subscribe because I'll be dropping a lot of interesting stuff coming up soon. So,
absolutely, Divulgence podcast, top of the top, and then Vincent Smith. Help me spell your name right. Find your YouTube channel. I know you're here. Artist.
Yeah, what's your artist page? On that one, it's I made a channel called the Burning Sage Saga, and I'm still growing it. You know, I posted another song in there, but
right, guys, brand new YouTube channel. Help him start the trend of subscriptions. Let's get
some of it. You know,
let's get 1,000 of you to subscribe, so this guy can be like, oh, okay, and then he'll start posting more stuff on there. Similarly, his YouTube is connected to his Facebook. He does a lot of really cool art. We're gonna have to go into that a little deeper one of these days, talking about AI, Midjourney. Great. Some really cool stuff.
Saqib is also part of the Mid-Trip Facebook channel, so it's kind of like, you know, like it's a group devoted to making AI art, and you have him and Sam that are like proficient at this. Sam's making really amazing things, but for me, it's like I'm in there as a traditional artist, so it's like I'm there to learn, basically to watch the AI evolve and perhaps turn into a useful tool somewhere down the line. Although, you know, I've been drawing all my life, so it's kind of, it hurts the little ego a bit to have someone be able to generate just ridiculous art at like a pace that is unheard of.
But we're all cooking with frozen food, so you know it's a little different.
But it's interesting. It's interesting to learn, like to see the dynamic and like understand the psychology, that like the impact that it has on not only our way of self-creating and self-generating, but the, I guess, the mythologies that'll emerge out of it, because art and psychology and even psychological healing and all these things are directly tied, but we don't know what AI will do to that, because once it's a dime a dozen, you know, like art loses a lot of power.
So as soon as I have $1 million, or in the next couple of years, someone else will, probably next 10 years, if they, you know, I can do it faster though.
You can find my comic if you want, bro.
what I can do if I had just a few more RTX 4090s is I could live create frames, and it would be super chatted that you whatever you want to see, a live cartoon being made for you as you're sitting there for you. And that's
very far from reality, actually.
I can virtually do that now, but I have a lower frame rate than it would be convenient. But yeah, you give me a little time, and in the future, that's what everyone's gonna have. Most media will be not rerun; it'll be created live on the spot from out.
Look, if you ask me to make something, I could probably make something. And like, there's a difference between what I can make and what you can make using AI prompts, because prompts are limited by language, while I can actually try to have something beyond language be manifested rather easily. It's hard to be precise with like AI art, because it has to understand what you're saying. While for me, like I'm pretty proficient with the English language, more so than a machine.
I'm gonna have to help you one of these days with im to im. Did you ever do this before?
Image to image. I know Sam uses this a lot.
So what you do is you say, like, I want to have a picture of this, your description, and then you draw like I want this line here, and then this is where it's happening, and then this comes out as the the replacement for it. I've seen so many great examples of this where, you just draw a little spot on the page to seed it with.
For sure.
I'm super scared to look any further into this. It looks like it's going to
get it gets very weird.
Internet's dark.
It's a burgeoning medium, and it's nice to see its evolution. I look forward to see it go well beyond where it is now.
Tomorrow, I'm going to be releasing a video that is an interview with my buddy Visa from Nigeria, and about 80% of it's going to be AI art that I did of Nigerian tribal art, which is using Klimt and some psychedelic 60s stuff and surreal German stuff from the 20s as inspiration. So that will be cool. And also American Time Machine, Kurt, one of my favorite people in the world, one of the greatest musicians, who wrote my favorite song, I Almost Had a Girlfriend, which is on the Witchcraft album. Yeah. Almost Had a Girlfriend. It just has a Pete and Pete kind of Polaris vibe that keeps you alive, And it's a really, the music hits you in a spot. Clussy, Atlantis, Peter Pan. It's all my favorite stuff. I mean, if you want to know what I'm thinking, listen to American Time Machine. But that's not all I'm thinking. I'm also listening beyond American Time Machine. I take a lot of time from my buddy Kevovich Soldovich right here. The Croatian sensation, the Dalmatian Croatian sensation, sold out for freedom. Beautiful artwork, amazing recording.
Hand drawn, the old-fashioned way.
Right,
my boy.
But very soon they'll just sew hands onto robots, and so you know what I mean. It's kind of like the Made in America thing with like the Filipino islands. Yeah, but this is real. No, that's not from robots. This is from humans with human hands. It's like FUBU. Who, something like that. Hoo-ha. I like Google Paranoia, Grim Future, Robot Brothels. That was the one I say before. Get this track. I'm going to put this in the description. Make sure you're checking out Kevin. He's a Croatian. You got to wonder what he's thinking, right? So, and also on the Instagram, you can get on his Instagram. You can kind of follow the stuff he's doing, because he's doing a lot of the real thing. He's out there. He's making moves. He's in real life. You can find him if you're in California. You can see him live, and then he travels. So yeah, live with Kevin.
I do buy the album so I don't have to do stuff online, please. I don't want to exist digitally.
Right. Yeah. So in the meantime, he'll be forced to grift here, but you'll find your way. You'll find your way into his heart. And then buy my merch. I guess that's kind of. Is there anything I'm missing there? Oh, Sakib, do you want me to pull up something for you?
Just my Facebook page is enough, I guess.
Can you link it in the
Yeah, wait. I think it's just SAKWB.
Sakib, you did that interview not long ago.
That's not the football club. Is not you.
No, it's SAKWB.
Right in the Facebook search.
I think it's just like SAKWB and Rahman, RAHMAN.
Search.
Yes, it's double
E.
Vania.
That's me.
Epic. And so you're doing AI art, and you're a mathematician. there's a lot of stuff we're gonna have to talk about even beyond philosophy, although mathematics is philosophy. So we'll definitely be in touch and we'll do something soon. I love some of the stuff you're putting out on the mid trip. I'm gonna have to come to Montreal now that it's cold and dark. It's perfect. It's like exactly my favorite kind of thing. Yeah, I love
you and fill you with mushrooms.
Oh, okay. Well, hard to say no to that. I love some of this stuff. This is crazy. This is an AI piece too.
Yeah. All these are AI pieces, but these are by Brian. This is by Brian Allen.
Oh, we went to Brian's page. Okay, we'll go back. Okay.
But this, if you scroll a little bit down,
he just shared it.
See, these are my stuff. Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's awesome. What the heck?
Stuff, man.
We're gonna have to compare notes, bro. I'm gonna send you some of my stuff. We'll talk about your prompts.
That series was I made it. It's called The Garden of Poetic Delights.
Let's get in touch about. I'm doing a comic book, all AI art, so we'll definitely have to be in touch.
This is the collage edition I made. Like
wow. Man, my AI art looked nothing like this. My AI art looked like it was stolen from my brain.
Yeah, they're getting pretty advanced in what they're doing.
Yeah, if you want, that's why I say, so Saqib, thank you. Make sure that you guys join his group. Vince and him are in mid-trip. I mean, it's a Facebook group, but, you know, they're not trying to censor you for making art. And a lot of the time they'll tell you the prompts they use, and the prompts will help you because once it knows to look for certain things like diorama of
techniques and stuff.
Monster. I don't know what you typed, but it could have been diorama. I don't know. Or model. Something like that. And yeah, the Niagara Falls shirt is super fly. Come on. That is the coolest thing.
I love that, man. I love that.
There's no way around it. You guys need it. It's on sale now. Get yourself the hooded sweatshirt or the coffee mug or the t-shirt. It's so cool. I'm so excited. All right. I'll see you guys next time. Thank you much for being here.
See you guys.
Canada is a country. Waves of people came to this country, were welcomed by the folks who've lived here for millennia, the First Nation. And built this society with waves of people fleeing religious persecution, fleeing tyranny, fleeing to try and build a better life for themselves here than they had back home. Whether it's folks fleeing from world wars or fleeing from civil wars, these people always want the same thing: to be able to live in peace, to raise their families, create a better future for themselves and their communities. And that is what generations created, this extraordinary diverse society we have. Now, Canada remains one of the only countries in the world where citizens are, by and large, positively kind. And one of the reasons we are that way is because Canadians have confidence in our people.